Listen to me play the A string while tuning the E string up and down. What the hell? An Ampeg AEB-1 bass came into the shop recently. Very, very cool vintage bass with a scroll headstock and an overall artistic and impressive aesthetic. And it also has something extra that's particularly unique, a so-called mystery pickup under the bridge. According to Bruce Johnson on his website xstrange.com, quote, "The mystery pickup, as it was called in Ampeg's brochures, is buried in the body underneath the bridge. The bridge itself is mounted on a thin steel diaphragm plate on top of two big magnetic coils cast into a large epoxy block. It's not a piezo pickup. The reason for this unusual pickup is so the bass could use gut strings. Everett Hull, Ampeg's founder, was trying to create an electric bass for upright jazz players, and he thought that fretted basses with metal strings were just a passing fad. Obviously, he was wrong, and very few of Ampeg's horizontal basses were sold with gut strings. Most were shipped with labella flat wounds, and the rest had labella black tape wounds. Everett refused to equip his line of basses with round wounds, although many players put them on themselves." End quote. With that interesting bit of history aside, we'll come back to the present moment to the chief complaint the customer has with this bass. There's a volume imbalance between the strings, with very little output on the E and A, and normal to high output on the D and G. The string volume imbalance is very audible, but the tap test can further confirm the problem. I'll remove the bridge cover to expose the bridge and saddles and show how it's louder and fuller on the treble side and quieter and thinner on the bass side. Removing the screws from the bridge, you can even hear a difference tapping the block beneath the bridge. Interestingly, removing the bridge completely and tapping the same block, everything sounds completely even. So the pickup itself is perfectly fine. I further confirmed this with my LCR meter. It showed a consistent capacitance, resistance, and inductance of 107 picofarads, 17.2 K, and 13.7 henries respectively. This ended up being a real head scratcher. I tried adjusting the brake angle on both sides at the tailpiece, opening up one of the washers on the bridge that was tight, flattening the bottom of the bridge, and even cleaning and tightening the output jack. At one point I had the volume balance perfect, left it on the bench overnight, and tested it the next day to find it had gone right back to where it was when I started. But then I found a couple surprises, and this job was about to get even more complicated. I noticed a crack in the bridge block that was opening up under string tension. Aha! I superglued that together, then strung it back up. Unfortunately, that didn't do anything. So now I'm grasping at straws. The saddle slot for the E string looked a little rough. I don't think it's going to affect anything, but what the heck. So I go and get my nut file and decide to touch it up. Then I notice something really weird. With the E string tuned down, the A string got louder. Take a listen to the A string as I tune the E string up and down. So as the tension on the E comes to pitch, the bass side gets quieter. You'd think an increase in pressure on the bridge would increase the volume, so what the heck is going on? I thought I was scratching my head before, but now I was really confused. Searching for an answer again, I took the pickguard off. It has a very interesting control section with the pots attached to what looks like a repurposed tuna can, and the pickup itself mounted inside this huge wooden base plate. It even has screw heads of a type I've never seen before. Seeing no ability to adjust anything on the inside, I put the pickguard back on. But there's something noteworthy I didn't mention to you. In order to take the pickguard off, I had to drastically lift the strings at the tailpiece. They were practically touching the pickguard before. I had only tried adjusting the brake angle to provide more angle on the low side, as I figured more pressure should increase the volume. As you heard, that didn't work out. Now racking my brain even more, I tuned the strings back up. Meanwhile, I'm contemplating how to stabilize the bridge, as my theory is that the bridge screws are somehow shifting their contact points under string tension, and that's creating the volume imbalance. Finally, I'm up to pitch and ready to be stumped once again, but lo and behold. Okay, so it's perfect. I just need a moment to process this. After a lot of thinking, I'm not sure what the deal is, but I'll take it. I hate not fully understanding why something works or doesn't work, but I can always contemplate this more on my own time. So with everything now seemingly working, I reluctantly put the bridge cover back on, still remembering my prior experience of having the base working perfectly, then leaving it overnight to find it back to square one in the morning. After confirming it was working, I left it overnight again, and found that it was still working when I played it in the morning. The only other issue was a buzzy G-string, which was the result of the saddle slot being too wide. I used a 46 gauge nut file to make a tighter, more appropriate size slot, and it took care of the buzzing right away. With everything done, I'm glad it stopped working overnight the first time. I didn't have a good explanation for why it was working or wasn't working, but with it consistently working now after adjusting the tailpiece, I at least have a clue in terms of break angle of the strings and tension distribution over the bridge. I certainly never would have thought that a shallower break angle would be the secret here, but that leaves me with a lot to think about. As Steve always reminds me, one of the best parts about this job is that it's something new every day. There's always more to explore and more to learn, and new ways to look at things that you never considered before, even after many, many years on the job. In any case, I'm glad to wrap this one up. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.